Okay, my 8th graders, so I know you guys are probably looking forward to this video a little bit more than probably the usual videos, because for the homework that's due on Thursday, February the 15th, you guys are now going to get a special treat because I'm going to answer a couple of questions directly from that homework. So we're now getting to a topic called solving multi-step equations with variables, and these variables are the same variable on both sides of the equal sign. So that's a pretty long topic, so just that in itself lets you know that there's probably a little bit more than what you usually have to do. This is page 43, the homework problem number 11. It's a word problem, and you have to actually write an equation for this sentence, and then you still have to solve for the variable, whatever that variable is. So this is what the problem said on problem number 11. 6 times a number, and we don't know what that number is, so we have to make up a variable, plus 4 is the same as that same number minus 11. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a variable. I like using the variable n for this missing number. Well, when it says 6 times a number, I know that I'm multiplying 6 times whatever this number is. I don't know what the number is yet, but I know I'm definitely multiplying it because it says 6 times a number. So I'm going to multiply that number by this coefficient 6. Well, it says if I take 6 times this number and then I add 4 to it, this keyword plus lets me know that I'm going to be adding 4. And this is the same. Whenever you see is the same or same in a word problem, it lets you know that it's going to be equal to another amount. So we're actually going to write an equal sign, because when we see the key phrase is the same as, we know that this is the same as saying something's equal to it when we know it's the same. Well, this is going to be equal to a number, whatever this number is, we're going to call it n again, minus 11. Well, we're trying to figure out what this number is. Well, remember what we went over in class. We're trying to get all the positive numbers with variables on one side, and we're trying to get positive numbers without variables on the opposite side of the equal sign. Now, sometimes we are going to get negatives no matter what we do. But if we can, we're going to try to get as many positives as we can. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take away n from this n. Well, what's 1n take away 1n? That's right, it's 0. There are no variable n's left on the right side. When we balance the equation, we have to take away 1n, so we're going to subtract n from the 6 n's. Well, what is 1n if you take it away from 6 n's? Well, this is going to give you a total of, right here, 5n. There are no more n's on the right side of this equation. On this equation, there's no more variable n's. Well, if we're going to go ahead and move all the numbers to the opposite side that don't have a variable, we're trying to get all the numbers like 4 and negative 11 or this minus 11, we want them on the right side. So we want to get rid of this 4 because all the numbers with variable n's are going to be on the left. So we need to subtract the 4, and now 4 take away 4 is 0. Let's take away 4 from the other side to balance the equation. Now remember what I told you, sometimes negative numbers, it's impossible to avoid them. This is one of those cases. Negative 11 take away 4 is negative 15. No matter what we did, unfortunately, we were going to get some negative numbers. Now, the only reason we want to avoid negative numbers for some people is because some people make mistakes when they get negative numbers. They forget their rules for dividing negative, and a negative is a positive. And because people make mistakes, if you can avoid negative numbers, some people try to avoid them. Here, we can't avoid it anymore. Well, here's what we have now. We have this equation, and this new equation says that if we go ahead and multiply 5 by this mystery number, it equals negative 15. So we're going to go ahead and take our 5n, which is equal to negative 15. Now, some of you guys already know that this number is going to go ahead and have to be negative 3. But we're going to go ahead and isolate our variable. Remember, everything my 7th grade class, you guys actually learned last year. You learned how to isolate a variable. And if you forgot how to isolate the variable, what you do is, you're trying to turn 5n into 1n. So what you're trying to do is find out what number this 1n is supposed to be equal to. So if we divide 5n by 5, this is 1n. You now isolated this variable n. It's all by itself because that's what the word isolate means. And it's all by itself on the left side of this equation. Let's balance the equation because remember, we learned last year what the word balancing the equation, that phrase means. Negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. This number is equal to negative 3. Now a lot of you guys will be like, okay, Mr. Gonzalez, but how do I check it? How do I know to make sure that this is really correct? How do I know that n is really equal to the number negative 3? Well, what you do is you actually evaluate an expression. You actually take out the variable n and you replace it with negative 3. So let's take our original equation and let's go ahead and multiply this 6, not by n, let's multiply it by negative 3. Let's multiply this and see what we get. Well, we're going to get negative 18 plus 4. That's going to be equal to negative 14. Let's see what we get on the right side of our equal sign. Let's take out n and let's put in negative 3 and subtract 11 here. Well, that's going to be negative 3 minus 11. You also get negative 14. Both of these sides are equal to each other if n is equal to negative 3. That's what you want to get. You want both sides to be equal, and they'll only be equal if n is equal to negative 3. That's how we know we're correct on this problem. Let's do one more for practice, though. I want you guys to go ahead and go to the same page, page 43 of the homework, and I want you guys to do problem number 8. I'll let you guys pause the video, and then I'll let you guys go ahead and try to figure out problem number 8 and see if you guys can get it. Pause the video now, and then unpause it, and then check your answer. You're doing problem number 8 from page 43. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay. Welcome back. I know that you guys went ahead and you guys were supposed to have done problem number 8 from the same page from the homework that's due on Thursday, February the 15th. Well, let me write down problem number 8 for you. And here's what it says. It says 2 plus 6x is equal to 1 minus x. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually see if you guys got the correct value for x. Remember, we're trying to get positive numbers as much as we can. So what a lot of students will do is they'll go ahead and they'll subtract 1 from 1 and they'll subtract 1 from 2. The reason why is because they want to get all the numbers without variables on one side. This is going to be 0, and now they're going to get a 1 right here because 2 take away 1 is 1. Now they're going to go ahead and subtract 6x, and they're going to balance the equation by subtracting 6x. And here's why I told you guys, sometimes you can't avoid that negative number. It's going to happen. Well, this is one of those cases. Negative 1x take away 6x is negative 7x. At this point, you're going to go ahead and want to isolate this variable. The way you isolate it and you get 1x is you're going to have to divide this by negative 7. See, negative 7x divided by negative 7 gives you positive 1x. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and negative 7 divided by negative 7 is positive 1x. So we now isolated the variable. If we balance the equation, we're going to go ahead and divide this by negative 7. Now this is actually going to give you a fraction, 1 over 7, and we'll put a negative, because a positive divided by a negative turns this fraction into negative 1 over 7. A lot of students will make the mistake and say that this is equal to negative 7. No. See, negative 7 divided by 1, this is equal to negative 7. But your answer for number 8 is actually going to stay a fraction. Negative 1 over 7 is actually a number smaller than 1. When you have negative 7 on the numerator, this is going to give you negative 7, because anything when you divide it by 1, this will give you the number you started with. This is not the same as this fraction. This is a number that's smaller than 1. This number is still a negative number, but 7 divided by 1 is actually 7. So the two answers are not the same. This answer doesn't equal 7. It equals -1/7. Well, hopefully you guys checked your answer and you guys got the same answer that I did for problem number 8. We're going to talk about more of these problems, and don't forget when this homework is due. It's due on Thursday, February the 15th. Well, it's good seeing you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in class. Take care.